Good evening, my fellow classmates. Our group will present to you on the analysis using see, judge, act method. But first, may I introduce to you the members of our group, which consists of 7 members, including me, and here are my group mates. Our team leader is Gian Tulibat, and our members are Allen Nakuhido, Jerwel Labrador, Cesna Mojica, Maricar Molina, and Altea Shoko, and yours truly, Brian Paulo Padlan. Now, we shall continue on our analysis using C, Judge Act method. Our topic is poverty. In the C, about poverty, number 1, the question is, what do we know about this issue? Generally, poverty comes from the lack of funds to meet our basic needs, such as clothing, shelter, and food. However, it is not having enough money, but rather it is due for not having a work or job or unemployment, taking its day as it comes and living in constant fear of the future. It is synonymous with hunger. Not seeing a doctor when you are sick is an example of poverty. It is frequently regarded as a problem which affects the minorities and the so-called underclass or poor. It is critical to understand that poverty is not a characteristic of a specific type of person, but rather a condition that will affect a large number of people. Lack of access to education and the inability to read is what you call also a poverty. The second question of the C, what did we observe? My answer is, there is a reason to believe the poor people could be anything but poor, and poverty will unavoidably persevere. Famous thinkers maintained that poverty was necessary for economic progress, because without it, who would farm the land, work the factories, and stop the armies? Avoiding hunger was a necessary motivator for doing work. Also, hunger, illness, and poor sanitation are the main issues, effects, and cause of poverty. The worst problem that the world faces today, it can be observed that poverty is a social ill that can be avoided, coincides with a growing economy. The third question of the C in poverty. What specific facts can we cite about this issue or experience? One example why people experience poverty is due to malnutrition, stunting, and hunger. We may believe that poverty causes hunger, but hunger, on the other hand, is both a cause and a maintainer of poverty. If a person does not eat enough, he or she will lack the strength and energy that is required for work, or their immune system will be weakened as a result of malnutrition, making them more susceptible to illness that prevents them from working. It creates a cycle, particularly on children. The first 1,000 days of a child's life from womb to the world are critical to ensuring their future health. Health is an important asset for children born into low-income families in order to break the cycle of poverty. However, If a mother is malnourished during her pregnancy, her children may be affected. Malnutrition can have a long-term consequence. Adults who were stunted as children earn 22%, less than those who were not stunted. Stunting contributes to GDP losses up to 16% in Ethiopia. Do you want to continue in the SJA method? Please listen to Alan Acohido. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Padlan. And to continue the C part of our social analysis, the next question is, what did we learn? An increasing poverty rate here in the Philippines from 16.7% in the year of 2018 and currently 18% this year, which is equal to 20 million of the country's population. Many are experiencing malnutrition and hunger because of poverty. Many remain poor because of lack of opportunity to work, study, and earn money. A great change in the country's economy might occur as the poverty rate increases, as it is a factor that can contribute to the GDP of the country. Many employees already have lost their job since this pandemic started and go beyond the poverty line and are classified as a poor. We have learned that the government are lack of opportunities given to people, which leads them to be poor since they do not have the chance to have work. And for the next question, how do we feel in the face of this issue or experience? And as we can observe that how big a problem this issue is, we feel bad as the rate of poverty in our country is increasing. I can tell and consider that the Philippines is really struggling with this particular social issue as it belongs to a country that has high poverty rate. We feel bad as we encounter people experiencing malnutrition, poor sanitation, and illness caused by poverty. Others may say that poverty exists because of laziness of people, but it's not. For me, poverty exists because of lacking of chances and opportunities for every family. And for the last question, does it touch us personally? For me, yes. This issue touches us personally as we see children and homeless families in the street begging for a coin or something they can eat. As a person and know how hard this life is, without having these basic needs in order to survive, we shouldn't ignore what we see. Let us show them empathy and have the courage or willingness to help them on what they need. It is not hard to share with those who are in need of what you have. We all know that our country is lacking already in programs and opportunities for such people like them. So who will be able to give them the help if we are not going to do so? And for the ending, I will just leave you this quote that no one has become poor by giving. We do not have to be rich in order to help poor people. We only need the heart to show compassion them. Thank you. And for the judge part, to start tackling it, may I call on Mr. Labrador? Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Jurel Ray Labrador. Since we are done with the C part, let us now proceed to the next part, which is the judge part. In this part, we will tackle what is the social analysis and the theoretical reflection of this social issue. To begin with, let us answer the question, why does this situation exist? As we all can see and read on the internet and in the news article, poverty does not only exist in our country, but also all over the world. If you think that laziness is the reason, then I strongly doubt that. According to the research paper written by Trevor G. Viloria, poverty exists not because of laziness, but rather because of those chances or opportunities that are being taken away from them. Trevor also concluded that our country will not be progressive as long as political dynasties, landlords, corrupt politicians, and elites wield power. Filipinos are still impoverished today. Most Filipinos do not have access to basic necessities such as free housing, affordable food, clean water, and electricity, among other things. Hence, having all these factors is the reason behind why poverty in our country exists. With that being said, let us now proceed to the second question, which is, what are the root causes of poverty? We want to achieve the common good for everyone, and poverty is just a hindrance to that goal. That is why, in order to solve this social issue, we need to identify what are the root causes of poverty so that we can address an action that will help us achieve social justice and eradicate poverty. The root causes of poverty are composed of economic factors, political factors, social factors, cultural factors, and religious factors. So let us proceed to the first factor, which is the economic factor. The economy of the Philippines is still developing, and many people from the provinces are aware of the risk in living in a metro city. But they are willing to take the risk because of the opportunities provided by the area, such as access to jobs, to education, to healthcare facilities, and to social networks. This is based on the research conducted by Patangkar on year 2015. Since living in a metro city is expensive and opportunity for the poor is still uncertain, many people took the risk to live in a riskier areas that is prone in flooding, earthquakes, fire, and so on. According to the meta-analysis of the literature, a 1 percentage point increase in yearly probability of flooding is associated with a 60% decrease in housing price. This is according to Daniel et al. At year 2009. The poor are at disadvantage in competing in life and justice. Jobs are commonly contractual, but the prices of necessities gets higher and higher because of inflation, and the poor cannot keep up with it. That is why our economy is a huge root cause of poverty, and it must be solved in order to stop and to fight poverty, social injustice, and hunger.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cesna Nicole J. Mojica, and I will be the one discussing the judge part. One of the factors or one of the root causes. So I will be discussing political factors, social factors, and historic factors. So let us now start with the political factors. So here in political factors, we aim to answer the questions: who decides, for whom do they decide, how did this decision get made, who is left out of the decision-making process, and why. When politicians compete for election, it is very evident that they target people who are in marginalized communities because they know that these people need assistance and help and need immediate responses. So if they get to touch their hearts, for sure, these people will vote for them. What's unfortunate is that most politicians run for public office with fascinating and heartwarming motives, but their promises do not materialize after the campaign period. Because of these promises and advocacies, the people will hope for change and improvement, and their hopes will be high. That is the issue. Politicians are often overly concerned with their image and campaign triumph. They put their money in their pockets instead of improving infrastructures, providing free houses, feeding street children to prevent malnutrition, providing livelihood, and reforming the government system. The issue is that greed and selfishness are imprinted in their persona. So let us now start with the social factors, and let's aim to answer the questions: who is included, who are these marginalized people, and why. So basically, these marginalized people are a group of persons who are being deprived of their opportunities and rights. In short, they are those who are excessively affected by this poverty. Here in the Philippines or here in our country, lack of discipline and discrimination are rampant. Let's accept that fact. What's horrible is that the people who discriminate and bully others are those people who are privileged and never known what it feels like to work hard to put food in the table. People who make fun of the less fortunate make it difficult for them to fight for their rights and see the beauty in life. Indeed, these privileged individuals who were able to use their right to education should be the first persons to understand their situation. These people should not join the voice of the oppressors, but be the voice of the oppressed. So let us now go to the historic factors and let's aim to answer the questions: what past events influence the situation today and why? Do you know the saying, history repeats itself? Yes, because that saying is applicable to the situation that is happening right now. Isn't it unfortunate that humans fail to learn from their mistakes and other people's mistakes? People's mistakes in voting incompetent candidates and continuing to believe in them because they want to hope for a change. People's mistakes in wanting reformation but still continuing the same wrong things they did before the reformation. People wanting and hoping that the Philippines will be one day a safe place but continue to condone extrajudicial killings. See, it is important to remember that time is gold. It may sound cliche, but it is absolutely true. People in marginalized communities are running out of time, and they are in need of immediate responses. They want to live well and comfortably enough to make their lives happy because they have spent their whole lives in there. They are poor, they are being oppressed. They are sick of never-ending loop of wishing and hoping, but nothing has ever changed. So to continue our discussion about poverty, the CJH Act about poverty, we have Gian Tulibat to also discuss it, and we have the rest of my groupment. So enjoy!
Thank you, Cessna. So the last part for the social analysis is the cultural factor, which asks the values that are evident and the beliefs that people believe in. So what is the main value? The main value is that is evident in the most poor individuals is dependency. Too much dependence on the structure or the government creates lack of initiative in promoting oneself's life. Aside from this, we can also determine a lack of purpose within them. This indicates a noticeably low effort in enriching themselves. This may have been attributed to the fact that since their grandparents, parents, great-grandparents were poor, they believed that their situation must be predetermined and there are no other options than to live their lives as they are. With the same reason as the lack of purpose arises worthlessness as a value, where people view themselves as unworthy, which results in hopelessness towards the future. That's all the social analysis. Now moving on for the theological reflection, we have two questions that is being asked. First, the lessons or values from the scripture that can help us interpret this experience, and the key principles from the church's social teachings that apply to this situation. So first, there are frequent mentions of Christ about the poor and the needy in the scriptures, of course. But when he speaks about such misfortune, he reminds us of his command to become beacons and light up their worlds. For instance, in Isaiah chapter 1 verse 17, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the faithless, plead the case of the widow. We are called to be just people, to defend the poor, the needy, and the less fortunate. And I think that's the purpose of the experience that we have based on the scripture. So what are the key principles? Taking action towards the development of the poor encompass each theme in Catholic social teaching. First, the life and dignity of the human person. Poverty creates stress in enabling individuals from fully experiencing their rights as human beings. Fighting for them is a way to protect their lives and dignity as human persons that they are threatened by poverty. So, second, call to family, community, and participation. When we do deeds against poverty, we take part in becoming productive members of the community. Third, rights and responsibilities. When we acknowledge the worklessness of the poor and we take actions against it, we fight against poverty that closes the doors for people to have their rights and enact responsibilities. 4. Option for the poor and vulnerable. When we speak of poverty, we speak of the poor. When we fight for the poor, we fight against poverty. Fifth, the dignity of work and right of workers. Some are stricken with poverty because wages are low and because of the toxic environment. Fighting for this cause will help lessen poverty brought about by the unfair work conditions. Sixth, solidarity. Taking care of the poor and upholding their lives to become poverty is a form of solidarity. Here we enact our fundamental interdependence as children of God. So basically, we uphold everyone else's lives. 7. Take care for God's creations. When we take care of the poor, we inadvertently help the environment reduce waste that would otherwise be present, which would contaminate the environment. So those are the theological reflections for the judge part. Now moving on for the act part. Let's call in Miss Kachila for the first part. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Marcar Kachila. Since we're done in judge part, now we're gonna tackle the last part of analysis, which is the act. The first question is, do we have enough information and analysis to act? If not, what additional work is needed? Yes, we do have enough information to pay attention to the current situation facing the entire country. According to data, 16.6% of the Philippines population, or approximately 17.6 million people, live in poverty, according to Philip J. in the year 2020. Poverty remains a challenge. Focusing on how to end poverty is important. How an individual can make a difference and to make changes that need to bring an end to poverty. A simple act can help thousands of people. Take action on your own, create awareness, and donate. Individuals can take action on their own, such as giving a scholarship to the child's education or by sponsoring a poor family. It can also create awareness by using social media account. It is time to use it as a voice of social good or simply donate old clothes, toiletries, or buy groceries can also improve the well-being of the poor. And the next question is, if we were to act to change this situation, what root causes would we tackle? Way to change the situation in order to eradicate the poverty rate in our country is to spread awareness or mainly focus on helping the poor. It can be the measures which we can take against poverty. The root causes are the following. Number 1. Social factor. Because of inequality, one of the primary causes of poverty. The poor are the one who suffered a lot with it. It is the unfair treatment between the rich and poor. It is treated as preferentially and other unjustly. The gap between rich and poor is not the main problem, but rather the insistence of unfairness. Second is also the social factor. Due to lack of education, students who are deprived to study, despite their situation, they are forced to stop. Education is one of the methods to eliminate poverty since it creates independence of thought. Hence, access to public education is now a right of every child and a responsibility of the parents. Third, cultural factor. Due to the lack of shelter, they thought it was only normal because this is the situation where their parents came from. Every child must feel the word home, not on sleeping the streets, under bridges, or on deserted properties. They are deprived of basic human needs, since most of them have no family or relatives, causing them to become outlaws of the society we live in. Fourth, economic factor. Due to the lack of jobs and livelihoods, many families struggle to find work just to have food or money to buy what they need. Despite their educational background, one of the reasons why the poor can't find a job, a very sad reality in society. And last, political factor. Regarding lack of government support, corruption is the primary reason for the government's failure to support the poor. The real problem isn't the poor and isn't society, it's the government itself. Thank you so much, and now we're gonna listen to the next presenter, Miss Althea Shoko.
Thank you, Miss Kitchela. Now, we're on the second part of ACT method. We are to ponder and answer these questions. Is there anyone we can influence to improve poverty? Yes, of course. Everyone within our reach, starting with our family, then to the people we know, by educating them family planning. Family planning plays a pivotal role in population growth, poverty reduction, and human development. Overpopulation is the main reason for poverty. This further leads to a high level of illiteracy, poor health care facilities, and lack of access to financial resources. That is why I believe by influencing the people around us will create a ripple effect to others. How do we go about changing the structures and relationships that produce this situation? Okay. The biggest reason for poverty is how a society is structured. Without structural changes, eliminating disparities and poverty may be difficult, if not impossible. Poverty and other social ills are caused in large part by social structure, which is how society works on a macro level. Some societal issues, such as racism, sexism, and segregation, continuously result in disparities in education, employment, and income for marginalized groups. The poor and minorities only need to make better choices. Work hard, stay in school, marry, and then avoid having children until they can afford them. But they would not be poor if they did all of this. This is an example of a naive approach to a complex social phenomenon. It is reducing the impact on individuals' behavior of a societal issue caused by structure, macro level labor market, and societal conditions. Many people believe that poverty is an individual phenomenon and that it is primarily their fault that people are poor, that people are poor. It is their fault now. But it's not. Poverty, on the other hand, is viewed as a structural phenomenon. People are poor, according to this viewpoint, because they are caught in gaps in the economic system that provide them with insufficient income. If we believe that poverty is caused by historical and environmental events rather than by individuals, we should be cautious about blaming the poor for their plight. I believe that if we consider structural influences as root causes of social problems, such as poverty and inequality, we could all improve our lives. Next, how do we plan to act in support of those who are disadvantaged? 1. Creating awareness. Social media has become an integral part of daily life, and now is the time to use it as a voice of social good. Sharing links on Facebook, Twitter, and other platforms will allow people to learn more about global poverty and increase the issue's general consciousness. Second, taking action of our own. There are a few simple ways we can help as individuals, such as funding a poor child's education or sponsoring a low income family and influencing others to do so. Raising money and donating it to a non-profit can help, such as donating books to a poor child or buying groceries for a low-income family for a week to help fight hunger, or donating old clothes, furniture, and toiletries can also help improve the well-being of the poor. Advocating. The third, advocating changes to the following issues to reduce poverty is gender inequality, quality education for everyone, economic security. Gender inequality. One of the main causes of extreme poverty is marginalization, the systemic barriers that lead to groups without representation in their communities. For a community or country to work its way out of poverty, all groups must be involved in the decision making process, especially when it comes to having a say in the things that determine your place in society. Quality education for everyone. We have to advocate this. Education develops skills and abilities, corrects some of the imbalances of marginalization, and decreases risk and vulnerability by creating access in remote areas, supporting teachers in their work to deliver quality education, and ensuring that education is available to children living in fragile contexts. Third, economic security. To have the skills and resilience they need to withstand hard economic times and grow their incomes. You have to advocate economic security to the government to overcome poverty by helping communities worldwide gain the economic security they need to thrive. This includes training people living in poverty to acquire the skills and knowledge they need to secure a livelihood to support their families. And most important of all, for to reduce poverty is opportunities. Even if equality, education, and economic security are provided, it would not be enough if opportunities are not given. Thus, opening doors such as job vacancies could help a lot, since one factor of poverty is the lack of jobs, lack of employment. Unemployment rate is high in the Philippines. If opportunities and proper compensation are given, no family has to hang by a thread as each day passes. Although ending poverty will be no easy feat, knowing how to act for the disadvantaged and improve their state is crucial to impact and make wider changes that need to be made to alleviate poverty, at least around the world. That is the end of my presentation. Um, the C Judge Act Method Analysis. Thank you everyone for listening.